guys, I'm John P.
And I'm Callie Lewis. Thank you so much for joining us for Talk Mobile 2013. We're talking mobile apps this week, and today we want to talk a little bit about cross-platform apps. Are they the future or not?
I hope they are, because my favorite app of all time is Army Boot Camp on iOS, and it's only—
You disappoint me, John.
And it's only for the iPhone. It's not even for the iPad. They've got a version 2, but it sucks compared to version 1, and I can't get it anywhere else.
So why can't we just have the same app on everything?
Yeah.
We need to. I really hope they are the future. I mean, you're always going to get the best experience when you pick a platform and go native and hook up every API you can. But not just from a consumer perspective of wanting your app that's your favorite app across platforms, from a publisher perspective. Like if I look at our Mobile Nation sites, it's really easy on the internet. You know, we build a website like Crackberry. We build it once for the internet. It works on Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer, name your other web browser. We have to follow some standards, but it mainly works. We can take that code base, turn it into our other sites fairly easily. Mobile Nations being an app-focused company, we deal with mobile devices. Our app strategy is really hard because if we say we want to have a great app for each of our sites in each of the app stores, that becomes 16 apps we have to build and manage for every platform. Ugh. It's a freaking mess. Has to change because it's driving me insane.
Yeah, I mean,
needs
that's
to get
just it.
better.
I mean, every system has its own proprietary coding and everything. And so there's some common grounds though. So for instance, gaming, we have the Unity engine, Havoc, and these kind of things, which definitely make it a lot easier for developers. But then it's also things like services. So services, I think, are easier to port over to other platforms. But you know, individual niche games and apps, you're not going to see, and it's unfortunate. Some developers are also have their own biases. They just don't like a platform or a company, and they won't do it.
Outside of the developer side of things, whether they like it or not, from the consumer standpoint, Renee, are there some apps that should only be on one platform or another?
Should only be is probably a stretch, but there are definitely apps that benefit. For example, a great BlackBerry app will tie into BBM and give you functionality no other platform can provide. When you write an app for iOS, you get absolutely the best, easiest to use frameworks right out of the bat. So people say, why is this on iOS first, or why isn't it here? It's just so easy to make a great looking, great working app on iOS that you don't have to put a lot of work in, and that creates a barrier. Developers, I don't want to say lazy, but it's a lot of time, a lot of money to make an app, and if you can do it easily on a huge platform, there's not a lot of incentive to do it
We've been
elsewhere.
speaking a lot for developers here, but I think Renee actually really hit the nail on the head there. It takes time and it takes money, and there are finite resources, especially for smaller developers. And that's not an easy thing to do and to do well when you really want to start scaling up, right?
No, and this is why BlackBerry, you know, in launching the BlackBerry 10 platform, they're trying to give developers as many options as possible to bring their apps onto the platform.
Even
so
to get started.
Yeah, just to get started, and then once you start to get downloads and sales, you can always change and rebuild your apps using a different platform.
What are the drawbacks to making sure that your app works everywhere?
For Android specifically, it's just the sheer number of devices out there. You have to pick a handful and say, here's what we're going to focus on, here's what we're going to develop on, and make sure it works as good as possible on this subset of devices, whether it's 1080p screens or 720. You know, Google tries to make it as easy as possible to be able to switch that stuff on the fly, but you can't anticipate everything, and there are so many. We tend to think US-centric here in the big devices, the Galaxy phones, HTC phones. There are so many devices out there, especially in emerging markets.
There's also a conflict between user experience on these different platforms, where some developers and some services want a consistent experience and everything on the same platform to look the same. So if you pick up the device, it'll operate the same way. Whereas the consumer tends to prefer having something that, like you were saying, optimizes to that OS. But there's a conflict there because that also changes the user experience, and it's not the same. And this question about how often are people switching platforms is still new and not answered. We don't know because all this is really
And I
new.
think we tend to think they do it more than they actually do because we do it.
Kevin, what should consumers do when they find an app that they love, that they want to go cross-platform? What's the best method that they can...
Let the developer know. Tweet them
Buy
incessantly.
shares of their stock.
Buy shares of their stock. I've been known to do this on many occasions, you know. So, and then like Netflix coming to BlackBerry 10, that's a little reverse shareholder takeover we got going on right now. We're going to make it happen. But I think let your voice be heard, absolutely.
Do developers mind hearing from their customers?
I think as long as those consumers and customers use tact, it's okay. You know, I think if there's a sense of ownership over the company, it's not as good. But if you use tact, let them know.
I was going to say, I mean, you definitely have to let the developer know. I think we take it for granted. We just assume that they know that, you know, people want that on that platform. But unless they actually see a lot of
Yeah.
people hitting
There's no
them up for
incentive,
requests,
yeah.
there's no incentive.
It's a business for them at the end of the day. And they need to see
Absolutely.
demand.
Yeah, but
Speaking of giving feedback,
We want your feedback. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think of all of this that we've talked about today.
with a little tact, of course.
Of course.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.